Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Minorities for Medical Marijuana Sow the Land hemp farming webinar. I am your host today, Stanley Atkins II, also known as the Canamedic. I am currently the Georgia Chapter Director of Minorities for Medical Marijuana, and I was recently appointed to the Director of the Hemp Farming and Technology Program. On today's episode of Sow the Land, you are in for a treat. Today's guest is going to be Martin McLeod from Farm Life Hemp. And this farm is located in North Carolina, down here in the lovely southeastern United States. Just to tell you a little bit about Martin's work in Farm Life Hemp. Farm Life Hemp is a fifth generation farm and hemp business determined to produce the best CBD and cannabinoid products that are rich in terpenes as possible. Martin and his son Isaac are both graduates of North Carolina State University with a degree in plant and soil sciences. He has formulated most of their products and his lifelong interest of science. He has a passion for hemp, cannabis, and the industry, knowing its potential it has to help so many ailments around the world. He, his wife Casey, and his son Isaac, along with their daughter Isabella, are all involved in the family business. So this is a family-owned and operated establishment. Joe is the father of two sons who all worked in the farming business for 5 generations. North Carolina State is one of the areas that they obtained their degrees in field and farming crop technologies. And they also help manage a lot of different farms in regards to the organic sustainability. And they grow everything from organic potatoes, wheat, corn, soybean, and even tobacco. This family is the cornerstone of their business, and their team consists of 2 brothers, their wives, and some local members of the community. And they are located again in North Carolina. So welcome, guys. We're going to have a great show today. We're going to bring on Martin and let him introduce himself as what they're doing in Farm Life Hemp. So good morning, Martin. How are you?
Good morning, Stanley. It's a pleasure to have the invite to be on the show with you today.
I appreciate it, and I thank you so much for coming on. Looks like you're on the phone right now. Am I correct?
Yeah, you are correct. There's always something to be done on a farm like ours. So, that's what good thing about technology today. I can actually have a window while I'm actually, a piece of equipment.
I think that this may be our first live broadcast from a running piece of farm equipment. So congratulations. So guys,
here's a little view out the front.
Oh, wow. Oh, see, that is what we're talking about, guys, on Sow the Land. So, Martin, we're going to jump right into it because I know it's going to be a busy day on the farm for you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and the work that you do.
Yes, I was born and raised right here in right in the same area that I'm still farming at today. And, I've been working in agriculture since as long as I can remember. My first memory as a child is, with my dad going around with my father and helping him, back a farm. And, it's always been in my blood. And, I've just always enjoyed growing crops. And when I cannabis and hemp and how I could potentially grow a crop that could heal people. Just really, really brought a desire to me, to really go after that goal of being able to grow cannabis, hemp, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. So that, people could find relief from their ailments, from a natural plant that's been on this earth for like thousands of years.
Absolutely.
I've done a lot of research on it. 10,000 years ago, the Chinese used cannabis for medicine. There's a lot to learn.
You're so right, and that's one thing that's really big in this industry, for people to really know the history of this plant. I know that there are a lot of people that are jumping into the hemp or the CBD space, and they think it's new technology. They think it's all new plants. They think it's new systems. But again, back to what you said, this plant has been around for tens of thousands of years. And I think that we are just now starting to tap the potential of the hemp plant. So you told us a little bit about you, where you're from, and your history in agriculture. You said that you've been in agriculture as long as you can remember. So what is Farm Life Hemp, and what is your role in the organization specifically?
Farm Life Hemp is a name I coined for our portion of the farm for hemp production and for my retail products that we produce on the farm. You know, we actually produce everything from the seedlings all the way to the end product on the farm here located. We have a lab that me and my brother built, clean room lab. We had to model it after, labs that we saw in the industry. And, just basically put our heart and soul into this, the production of cannabis for making medicine. And, I witnessed firsthand my father suffered from rheumatoid arthritis and was taking many pharmaceutical drugs, and the side effects were sometimes worse than the actual benefits. So I suggested to my father to try some of our full spectrum CBD-rich oil, and within, I think it was a week or two, his swelling and pain had reduced dramatic levels. And even he brought this to the attention of his doctor, and his doctor actually approved for him to get off the medication and only take, the cannabis-derived product. So for that to happen, it really opened my eyes to the power of this plant and what it has to offer. There's so many people that could be benefiting from the plant, but due to the stigma that our government has created, a lot of people won't take it. But a lot of people coming around now. Times are changing for the better, and I believe that always more and more people will be exposed to this plant and find out the benefits in the future.
Thank you so much for that. And so for everyone that's watching, anyone that may see this video later, he started with his father. Rheumatoid arthritis, we know that a lot of patients are taking a lot of medications for inflammation, for chronic pain. And this is just more proof and evidence that CBD and cannabinoid-based products could potentially help a lot of people in their conditions. So that leads us into my next question. So I saw that on your website that you guys are 5th-generation farmers. So what has been, and how long have you guys been into farming, and what has been some of the things that have really kept you guys going?
Yes, my family is originally from Scotland, so when they initially migrated here to the Carolinas, they began farming tobacco and cotton and other crops of that nature. And what's kept us going, I guess, is our family sticking together, just working together, and I put my family motto is hold fast, don't give up. And there's many times in farming we have a lot of challenges. We can't control the weather. So, we've had a year when we had a hurricane and destroyed 600 acres of tobacco, completely destroyed our entire crop. That's times like that when you gotta, hold it, stick together and just, weather the storm.
Wow. So that's something that I do know. There's a lot of times where you plan for one thing during the process, and you have all types of hurdles and obstacles that may come in your way, and that just shows the sustainability of farmers. People say at the end of the world, the last thing that are going to be here are Twinkies will still be around. I think that farmers will still be around as well, because farmers have to truly adapt to the environment, have to change things at the drop of a hat, and they risk it all every single season. So that leads us into my next question. Was once you realized that the products helped your father, what truly was the catalyst that made you want to say, what, we're going to grow industrial hemp? What was that final thing that said, what, this is why we want to grow industrial hemp?
Me myself had always been searching for alternative to tobacco to grow. I mean, I grew a crop called canola before, and some other, what they call specialty crops. Because in reality, like the tobacco industry is, we get paid basically the same price for a pound of tobacco as we did 40 years ago. There's no increase to the price. I feel basically like I'm a slave to these companies, and I wanted to look into a crop.
Looks like you're cutting out a little bit. Sounds like we lost audio.
But I think I'm right now.
All right, we can hear you again now.
Yeah, let me see if I'm back on now. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can see you, but I can't see myself.
Yeah, you're gonna have to turn your camera back on.
Okay, let me see here.
Yeah, there you go.
What drove me to planning?
So you were stating that in regards to the tobacco. Now that's something that I know a lot of tobacco farms or former tobacco farms, across the nation have begun to cultivate industrial hemp. Is there a reason that the price per pound of tobacco hasn't gone up in the last 40 years? What's the reasoning behind that? Looks like we're having some technical difficulty with him on the farm.
It's mainly because of it becoming a world market. Basically, because it's becoming a world traded commodity. Zimbabwe, China, where their cost of production is probably 1/4 to 1/5 of ours. Here in the United States, everything costs more. Labor is extremely more. Equipment is more. Just our cost of production is much higher, and they can produce the product for almost half what we can there. So the companies buy the tobacco from these other countries for half of what they pay for it here, so they see no reason to pay us more. But
that's very interesting. I've never
as far as the hemp, I looked at it hemp also. I grow hemp exactly like we.
Sounds like we lost him again, guys. So bear with us, everyone. Martin is actually broadcasting live from the farm. So sometimes they don't have the best service on the farm, but we wanted to have him out in the field today so he could give us a good feel of, where he is and what he's actually doing. So hopefully we can get Martin back on. But what he was, just to allude back to his point, there are a lot of different plants that you can grow on these farms, and they started with tobacco. But as he saw that the tobacco market wasn't growing monetarily for them, they expanded their growth into hemp. So I think that's really important for farmers who may be growing one crop to leverage into another crop if they realize that market is collapsing, or they're not making enough money in that market. So again, Martin, thank you so much for that. I see that we have you back. Now, this is something I really wanted to know. I get this question a lot. When growing hemp, I've visited several hemp farms myself. What can you tell us about the importance of genetics from the beginning, and how do genetics affect the harvest at the end of cultivation?
I would say that is a very, very important factor. I remember one of my professors at college, he said, as soon as you put that seed in the ground, you made up 60 to 70% of the outcome yield just by the genetics. I have sourced genetics from many different seed genetics companies across the country. There's a lot of fly-by-night companies out there that are just looking for a quick dollar. You know, they're not in this industry for a long-term business. They're in for just a quick dollar and out. They don't care about the outcome of the farmer if they're selling them seed. You know, I've heard of people buying seed for full suckable flower production, and the person sold them fiber genetics, you know, in the indoor grow. And the man he spent all that money and ended up being deceived. So you got to really do your homework and research companies where you're going to source your seed from. But I'm not going to promote any companies on here now, but you know, there are companies that I work with that have been developing cannabis or hemp genetics, you know, since the very beginning. And there's a reason why they're still here now, you know, and they're the plant bigger from some of their plants versus others. It's a difference in night and day. You know, the yield difference, the CBD content, you know, the appearance of the flower, the terpene profiles. There's so many factors that go into the finished product that, you know, it's a different. It takes a lot more TLC, I guess you could say, than a traditional crop.
Thank you for that. So I know that genetics, you know, you guys, when it comes to growing hemp, it's just like growing any other plant or making any other commodity. You're gonna get out what you put in. So if you cut corners in the beginning,
100%.
Those corners are gonna still be cut in the end, but they're gonna be a lot bigger. So he's saying that they take care of all their own things. In your personal experience, do you prefer to start from seedlings, or do you prefer to start from clone genetics?
I've done both methods in our production models. For me, we grow it very just like we do tobacco. You know, I mean, I look at it like you're saying, it's a plant. I mean, it grows just like any other plant. You know, it needs water, light, and nutrients. That's the three main things that make a plant grow. But as far as cloning versus seed, for me, I can do seedlings on large scale for much less upfront cost, and from using some very vetted companies that I work with. And I see seedlings having an advantage over clones for the cost, for one thing, and they have a lot more vigor starting out. It's just like a new life, you know, how nature intended the plant to grow. That's how I look at it. But I mean, cloning has its place, say like for, you know, indoor production or greenhouse. If you want every plant the same phenotype. But I've noticed over the years from some breeders that their genetics become much more stable from year to year. By that I mean every plant is basically the same, no variation across the phenotypical expression. Whereas with a clone, if you clone from that one plant, you know, it's basically a mirror image of the plant that is cloned from the same genetics, same genes. So theoretically every clone will look exactly the same. But you have the added labor of having to actually cut the clone, you know, and root it out and all of that. And also, for a lot of farms who actually purchase clones, the cost is extremely high. You know, I know people spend $1,000 an acre just for plants, whereas, you know, I can grow seed for a fraction of that cost, and that's what matters in the end of the bottom line.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we've heard people talking about clones versus seeds, and he's giving you information. So with seeds, once you get that phenotype, you get it dialed in, you get those genetics from that reputable source that you've chosen to broker with. That is how every season you continue to keep that going. And with the clones, it is some extra labor involved. So for those who may not know, cloning involves taking a cutting from a mature plant and planting that separately. And as he said, rooting out, that is the process in which you insert that into your medium, whether it's your rock wool or whatever you may use, to make the roots grow out, to make it a sustainable plant for individual planting. Thank you so much for that. I saw we had a question, and somebody asked about the 600 acres of hemp. I think he was saying that they lost 600 acres of tobacco. But in regards to your hemp and your tobacco production and cultivation, Tell us a little bit about the labor force that you use, because we know that a lot of farmers are getting a lot of plants in the ground, but once everything's ready to go, they don't have the means to harvest them. And we know it's very
Yeah,
time sensitive. So tell us a little bit about labor force and how you guys are making things happen in North Carolina.
yeah. I've got a lot of friends all over the country that's in the hemp industry, and I know like there's been farms out in Oregon where on all these acres they don't have any plan to harvest it, and I've seen people show me in fields where they were never harvested because when they got to the point of harvesting and drying, they had no plan, they had no labor to harvest the plant, they had nowhere to dry it. It takes a lot of infrastructure to handle the drying and harvesting of a large hemp operation. That's where it kind of helps. Hey, we kind of have an advantage because we're used to having labor on farm for our tobacco crops, and we use a lot of the same infrastructure that we use to harvest tobacco as we do to harvest hemp. Basically, a lot of everything the same. We harvest it, we chop it down for the biomass, and use the same conveyor trailers that we put tobacco on to move the plants from the field to our tobacco drying barns. And we dry the hemp in our tobacco drying barns basically just like we do tobacco. So, that our production of the land versus hanging it up one by one plant is a fraction of the labor cost of manually doing it. And when it comes to bucking the hemp, that's another huge cost. Hand bucking versus I actually use a modified combine that a friend of mine get for that's out of he's out of Oregon. The name of his company is Hemp. Me and him have been friends since day one of the industry. But I put a kit on my combine, and I can basically separate the same amount of hemp that it would take. I could probably do 10,000 pounds in the same amount of time that it would take to do 400 pounds by hand with like 10 people. And I can have maybe 4 people operating this machinery.
Wow.
It's just a mechanization is how we keep alive in the tobacco industry and all the other crops grow. So, this is transferred to hemp. Like you said before, it's a plant. We just grow it the same as we do tobacco.
Now, that's something that I have learned in this industry. Those who truly are looking to expand and truly to increase their efficiency, they're automating as much as they can. As you said, being able to do thousands of pounds in the same amount of time that you can do hundreds of pounds on a normal circumstances is very important. And I saw that we just had a question, and we'll get to that one. And they were asking, what chemicals are you using for pests or disease, if any at all? So what input would you give to that right there? You have to give proprietary information, but what advice could you give them?
Yeah, there's a company called Maroon Biosciences and another one called Certus, and they specialize in organic crop protection products, from fungicides all the way down to insecticides. And even they even have herbicides that are organic, basically an acid that you can spray on weeds, and it kills it on contact. We use that a lot. And the fungicide, when we transplant the hemp, we use our tobacco transplanters. So, we don't use plastic. First year I did it, I tested it. And I did it on open ground like that, and my yields are much higher, and my cost was probably a third. And as far as like for the worms, I'd say worms and botrytis, which is like a people call bud rot in the south, is our biggest pest. And like I said, spraying regularly with some of those products, other companies, all those products are certified for organic production, because they're naturally occurring compounds. It just takes timely and repetitive applications versus traditional plant protection products. You can spray one time and kill everything, and you're good for a while. But with these organic products, it just takes like repetitive timeliness. You got to be out there spraying before the disease is present, before the worms get there. once they're already present and established, it's harder to control them with these products. But so that's what a lot of it has to do with timing and repetitive.
So I think it's
does that answer the question?
So I think it's safe to say from your perspective that farmers who are going to be growing, whether it's hemp, whether it's potatoes or corn, it would be smart of them to know what parasites and what pests are actually in their region. That way, when it does, if they do see it, they can start planning versus seeing them, because by the time you see them or you see the mold or the fungus, it's already too late. So that preventive maintenance is very important. So ladies and gentlemen, please understand that you don't just put these plants in the ground, add water, and walk away, because there are things that are in this natural environment that want to eat it, that want to attach to it, and potentially destroy it. So that leads me into this one. So tell us a little bit about the grow that you guys have going for the 2021 season, and what are some of the obstacles you faced since the pandemic? So tell us a little bit about the season that you got, the growing season that you guys are in currently.
Yes, this year we have reduced our acres drastically from 2 years ago, just because of the oversupply of biomass on the market and the reduction in the price of crude oil and other raw ingredients. But so we focus more now on smokable flower, which is what I see as a very medicinal product, because it's the natural form of the plant. And someone consumes it, you are able to absorb all the cannabinoids, terpenes, and all the other beneficial compounds that are in the plant. So this year I'm focusing on, like I said, we do a lot of smokable flower production, and we do have contracts with a company for biomass, but we have, like I said, reduced our acres, just kind of riding out the storm. But I mean, I believe that the demand for CBD is going up every year. I mean, there's more people finding out about it. More people are hearing stories, from people they know, family members, how it's helped them. So I believe that, the tides will turn. It's just going to take time, and it's like any commodity, you ups and downs. Corn prices, 2 years ago, corn $3 a bushel. This year, I booked stuff for $7. It's like right now, biomass is extremely low in price, but I've been hearing a lot more calls. There's a lot more chatter. So I mean, I can see demand coming up. And one other suggestion in this market, if you're going to get into it, is you definitely need to have a network of potential places to sell the product, because nobody's going to come up knocking on the door. You got hemp for sale? It don't work like that. I mean, go to networking events, go to shows. I go to any trade shows as I can just to meet people in the industry. That's how I'm able to move a lot of our products, is just meeting other people in the industry that are here for the right reason and not just like I said, short-term gain. But our grow this year consists of several different cultivars that I've selected over the years that produce characteristics for different types of flowers that are marketable in certain countries, such as the EU, which only allows 0.2% THC. So I ventured more into CBG strains to try to go towards those markets, and you just have to adapt, like you were saying earlier. You can't, every year is different, and the market's different every year as well. So gotta keep chugging along.
So thank you for that, because a lot of times people don't think about, well, if I want to export this to another country for production, knowing those limits of those countries, because I'm sure you, amongst myself and everybody else, we would love to see the THC percentage go up to 1% on industrial hemp. I think that would help.
That's what it should be.
It would help the entire industry, and it would save a lot of
industry.
So I know that you stated you guys have a lab. You got it with the clean room, and I was looking on your website and I saw some pictures. So tell us a little bit about you guys' lab and extraction capabilities with Farm Life Hemp.
Yes, we mainly focus on cryogenic ethanol extraction to produce crude oil, and I myself believe that crude oil is more beneficial health-wise than distillate or isolate because it's more like a mirror. Like I said before, it's more closer to like consuming actual raw flour. It's more like a mirror image of the cannabinoid profile or the plant. It contains much more than just the cannabinoids. There's more in the plant than just that. It contains a lot of terpenes, ketones, esters, vitamins, minerals, just all sorts of beneficial compounds that are in the plant. So we mainly focus on producing crude oil in our lab, and we also produce salves, topical application products. We have ventured into do a lot of vape products as well, and edible products, which are seem to be a very popular mode of ingestion, especially among them. That the elderly are probably, I'd say, 60%, 50% of my customers. People that go to my church that I never would ever want to try cannabis. And some of them, they're some of my best customers now. They've completely changed the whole outlook on cannabis. Whereas before, when I was a kid, when somebody said marijuana, they think the devil, and now they think healing because when they experience it themselves, it changes their outlook really fast.
And that is something that I teach all the time. One thing that we've noticed, especially on the healthcare and the education side of the industry, is that the number one growing patient demographic, ladies and gentlemen, is the 55 and older community. So for those who are coming out with new formulations, new products, new brands, and they're targeting the younger crowd, with the younger crowd, they're going to use these products as an accessory in most times to their lifestyle. Whereas some of the older patients, they use these products as a necessity. And there's a difference in that. If you're using something as an accessory, if you don't have it, it's not really mandatory. But when it's a part of your daily lifestyle, your daily treatment regimen, this is very important. So that leads me into my next question. You said about the marketing, you want to make sure you can market, you got your target demographic for where you want to sell your product. Now, how important is it for farmers to have a strong supply chain, but also have the distribution model to support that and help them in really getting their products out and for distribution?
Yeah, that's probably one of the most important things because you can produce 1 million pounds of hemp, but if you don't have anybody to buy it, what good is it? You can't eat it all yourself. But like I said, what helped me is just communicate with others in the industry. Always trying to do things right, not try to rip people off. When you do stuff like that, people start to realize that you're here for the right reason. And I help other farmers sell their biomass this year, and I don't want anything out of it. I just do it for the kindness of my heart. But I know how hard they've worked to produce that product, and come to find out, when it's time to sell it, whoever they had the contract with, disappeared, gone. And it's just heartbreaking for a lot of people to work that hard to produce a product, thinking that you were going to make a good profit on your hard work, and then basically think you get nothing out of it. So, you definitely want to do your due diligence on anyone that you're contracting with, and make sure that they have somebody to buy the product that they're going to buy from you. If they don't have that, they're not going to buy it from you. So, just always do your digital. Before you even plant that crop, you need to have a pretty good idea of where you're going to sell it at. That'd be a good question for me.
Thank you for that, because I'm hoping by next year to have me a farm up and running here in Georgia. And for all of the farms that I've visited, I've gone to Tennessee, I've been to Kentucky, Florida. I'm going to come up to the Carolinas. One thing that I've noticed was that most of the farmers had some extra tractor trailers or some semi trailers on site that were loaded with super sacks of biomass. One of the farms that I visited, the guy was saying that he had about 120,000 pounds from the previous season. And he was saying that, he was trying to get plants in the ground, And once those plants came up, he's like, what are we going to do with them now? Some of the buyer agreements fell through, and some of the partners that they thought had distribution models actually weren't. They're really just blowing a lot of smoke and mirrors. So, ladies and gentlemen, just don't think that it's not, as he said, nobody's going to come banging your door down to come get all your products. You're going to have to make sure you got that network, the distribution model, but not only the network and the distribution model, but you also want to have the supply, because the supply chain is just as important to facilitate the distribution. I see we have a message here from Eric Range, who's our board chair, and he says, consult an attorney in contract negotiations. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, legal representation is very important. We have seen so many cases where farmers are usually left the short end of the stick. One thing that I've learned in this industry from some of my mentors and some of my colleagues, that in a lot of cases, farmers are not businessmen. Businessmen are not farmers. Most of the time, they don't have a desire to do each other's job. And that's where that person in the middle comes in, on the business side, the contract side, the admin side of the house. Because farmers, they don't have time for that. They have to focus on farming. So guys, make sure when you're doing anything in the hemp space that you're operating, one, within the legal parameters of your state program, but also that you're having a third party to go over contracts and negotiations to make sure that they're in the best interest of you and your farm. So my next question is, Martin, I know you guys are fifth generation farmers. Tell us a little bit about some of the plants outside of hemp that you guys are growing. I know you alluded to corn and some other plants, but tell us about some of the things that you guys have grown and are continuing to grow outside the hemp space on your farm, since you are deemed a multi-use organization.
Yeah, well, corn. I ventured a lot more into corn in the past 2 years, increased my acres drastically on that. And we have local feed mills with high demand. I mean, most people don't realize that all chickens, hogs, all these chicken houses you see everywhere, all these hog houses, they're fed a feed, a mixture of corn and soybeans. And that's all these fields of corn you see in North Carolina, soybean. 98% of it goes to feeding the livestock, the chickens, the beef. So next time you bite into a Chick-fil-A sandwich, you got to remember that that chicken was grown off of corn and soybeans.
Wow.
And so that's what I've got. We grow corn, soybean, wheat, sweet potatoes. We've done a lot of sweet potatoes in the past. We did organic sweet potatoes, and that's another good crop. They feel good, but you're growing a crop that somebody's actually eating, and of course tobacco. Our acres are lower than they were in the past, but we grow a pretty good amount. We've increased our acres over last year, but I like to have a diversity of different crops because it spreads out.
I have a question for you. This is one of my personal questions. Are there any plants or any foods or just any other plants that you may be growing that complement the hemp that you have in relative proximity to your hemp plants?
Any plants that you would plant in the same field is what you're saying?
Or nearby that would potentially complement that field, whether it's through irrigation, or what plants help that would support industrial hemp. So if there's a farmer that already has plants growing, what plants grow well in the same vicinity as hemp?
Yeah, tobacco is grows in very similar soils. Hemp likes well-drained, aerated soils. If it doesn't like really heavy, in my experience, if it's waterlogged soils, like in my field, if it gets we get a lot of rain and the roots get saturated with water, they'll turn into yellow and wilt, and sometimes even die. So and it likes a very high pH. Uh, side by side yields, like where comparisons where I get whenever we're spreading lime, it didn't hit a certain area of the field, and the pH was like 5 in this area, and then 10 foot over, pH was 6.2. The plant was 3 times as big, or 4 times as big. There's little, agronomic factors like that play a huge role into your end product.
I saw
irrigation
that
as well, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Because do you guys have problems with irrigation in North Carolina? I know some of the farms, especially in the Midwest and on the West Coast, they have a lot of problems with water rights. Do you guys have issues with water rights?
That's right.
In the area?
We're in Carolina. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but ponds are everywhere. I'm actually a pilot myself, so I do a lot of flying, and I noticed like South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, there's ponds there. This is because of the tobacco industry in the early 1900s and all that. Every family used to grow like a couple acres of tobacco, and they had it. They built all these ponds for irrigation for the tobacco, and so we have access to many ponds on our farms that we use that surface water for irrigation for the hemp. So we have to worry about water rights, like they do. I know, like up in Colorado and places like that, they have a limited amount of water, so they have to you have to. I don't know how it works, but you just have to buy the rights to use it. I'm not too familiar with it.
Thank you. Those are some questions that I had. And before we wrap up here, we're getting some more questions that are coming in on the Facebook feed. And one of the questions is from a farmer that says, David Grand. He says, I grew hemp in Georgia this year. Oversupply of CBD in the state, but FAMU verified Panicia, and they have guaranteed buyback. So his second question, that was a comment. His second question was, have you ever tried growing hemp for grain or for fiber or even as a cover crop?
I'm actually growing hemp for grain this year. So me and the company I'm working with are looking at potentially using it as, animal feed and pressing the oil out of it, but it's very high in omega-3. Like I'm friends with a farmer in Colorado that grew I think he grew like 900 acres of hemp under pivot. But he was showing me they save their own seed and reuse the seed, and he just had like bulk sacks of seed they use. But his chickens, he saw that his chickens were eating the hemp seed, and they tested the eggs at a university, and it had like 3 times the amount of omega-3 fatty acids in the chickens that had been eating that feed. So I see it as like a no-brainer, to be used as a feed stock for as a food additive into the ingredients, for chickens, hogs, whatever. I mean, it's basically a superfood. They say that the hemp part, and so that's kind of what I'm looking to try to get into this year, And as far as fiber, I want to eventually get into that too as well. There's technology now where you can actually, make the fiber just as soft as cotton. Feels just like a regular cotton shirt through certain processes. It's probably 5 times stronger. A day old shirt will probably last your whole life. With my cotton shirt, I have little holes on it. 5 years, But
I never
so many uses.
So what you're saying is, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead now. You can go ahead, Sam.
So what you're saying is, guys, ladies and gentlemen, what he's telling you is that yes, they found out that if your chickens consume some of the hemp grains or hemp pipes, hemp seeds, that it actually promotes a higher level of omega-3 inside the chicken embryo. So guys, it's showing that it's potentially the future of, an additive to animal feed and animal byproduct, because as the nation continues to look more into agriculture and what we're eating, it's important to know that the animals that we're eating, we're putting healthy food into those animals, and that's going to increase the end use product. We're getting ready to wrap up, but something else that someone mentioned in the comments was proper accounting. So thank you, Desiree Anderson. And Desiree stated that proper accounting is also very important if you want to grow your business vertically or if you intend to raise capital at some point. It is important to take steps to plan your profit and minimize your tax liability early in the game. She stated also proper accounting will ensure that you are able to secure loans and lines of credit when the time comes. So, from your experience, how important has bookkeeping and accounting been, and what role has that played in the sustainability of Farm Life Hemp?
It's very important because you got to be your bottom line. If you don't know what your input costs are and to the T, then you don't know if you're making losing money. And so that goes into all, especially when you get into the retail products and all of that. It's very important, to know your bottom line and have accounting and take advantage of tax incentives because that's just money that you're basically throwing away if you're not taking advantage of it. Like in the farming industry, when you buy a piece of equipment, you can count that off against your total revenue, and that goes off. You want to pay taxes on that money because you're using that money in your business, to produce products in your farm and make your farm more efficient.
Thank you.
So it's very important. That's very important.
Accounting is important. Genetics are important. I really appreciate Martin today, really dropping us some gems. And I know you can't see the comments, but David Garan, he said, so cool. Thank you very much, because he's a hemp farmer here in Georgia. And so how can people follow up with you? So how can people learn more? And how can people purchase from Farm Life Hemp and purchase your products for their stores or their own personal use?
They can go to, they can shoot me an email at www.farmlifehemp.com. And I also have another website, loudbakes.green, that we haven't fully got that website working yet, but a partner of mine is a computer science background, is getting everything, tweaked before we fully launch it. But you could just drop me an email on either of those websites. There's a contact area listed, and I'll be glad to help with any questions.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
comments anyone has.
www.farmlife.
Like I said, I have a passion for this industry.
And I appreciate your passion. I'm going to give him your website again. His website is www.farmlifehemp.com. And I tell you what I want to do, Martin. I'm planning a trip to several farms in the upcoming weeks and months, and I'd like to add Farm Life Hemp, to my areas that I'm going to be visiting. I'd love to come up and get some boots in the ground and get some fingers in the dirt with you guys to come and learn from you and see how I can help others be more efficient by directing them towards you guys' work. And for people who are looking at formulations for purchasing of crude, I will definitely be sure to send them your way to Farm Life Hemp, because if we know, I tell people all the time, when you're starting a brand, you're starting a product or a company, you want to try as hard as you can to source products from a reputable place that if you call them and say, hey, Martin, how are you? Hey, can I come out to the farm? You want people that say, yes, you're welcome to come out to the farm, because if you're spending money and you're obtaining products, COAs from a distributor or a manufacturer or producer, you want to know that there is transparency and that they will be welcome to have you on their farm. If you're ordering tens of thousands of dollars of products from a farm and you say, hey guys, I've been ordering for you guys for about a year and a half. Would it be okay if I came out to the farm? And if they say, no, or, it's not open, or we don't want you here, oftentimes those are some red flags. And I really appreciate your transparency. I'm going to see if I can get up there and come pay you guys a visit. Because I don't eat meat, so I don't enjoy the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches, but I do love vegetables. And you said you got some corn, and some sweet potatoes, so I'm definitely in coming up. And thank you to the attendees.
Oh yeah, we got a garden too. Come get you some fresh vegetables.
Oh yes, that's one thing that is my favorite part of any hemp field trip, as I call them, is after all the work and the genetics and the greenhouses and the high tunnels. All right, now where's the food? All right, where are the cucumbers? Where are the melons? Where are the squash? So I definitely appreciate it. And if you would, please tell them how they can contact you, how they can stay in touch with you, and if it's anything other than Farm Life Hemp,
Oh yeah.
any closing words that you have for any farmers or anyone who's attending this, who's watching right now, what advice or words of wisdom would you like to give them from Martin McLeod and Farm Life Hemp?
They can also follow me on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Farm Life Hemp LLC, and also an Instagram page, farm_life_hemp. And I'll post pictures on there on the Facebook time to time so people can see the crop as it grows, and to see how the farm's going. And the biggest word of advice I have for any hemp farmer is just don't give up. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. As long as you try your hardest, your best, it will work out. That's what I always do. Sometimes I get frustrated with stuff, but that's just part of life, and it's part of farming, part of business.
Well, thank you so much again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for attending. I want to say a special thank you to Martin McLeod and his entire team over at Farm Life Hemp, located in North Carolina. Again, you can follow them on Facebook, on Instagram. The page is Farm Life Hemp. The name of the company is Farm Life Hemp LLC. You can also go to their website at www.farmlifehemp.com. Thank you again so much for this. I know you're on the farm right now. He's sitting in a piece of equipment right now, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to thank you on the behalf of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. Look at the view, ladies and gentlemen. It's not all glitz and glamour. It's sunshine and the great outdoors. So, again, thank you for joining us for this episode.
That's right. And I really appreciate you for asking me.
Man, you're very welcome. When I reached out to you, I told you one thing that I'm big on is transparency. And I want to try to help as many farms grow and to grow their reach and to grow their interest from people who may not even know they exist. That is my goal, because as you stated, the only way we're going to grow this industry is together and by helping others. So thank you again on the behalf of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. I am Stanley Atkins II, also known as the Canamedic. I am your Georgia chapter director of Minorities for Medical Marijuana, and I'm also the national director of our hemp farming and technology programs. So definitely stay tuned. We're going to continue with Sow the Land once a month, each month. Be sure to tune in next month. And this fall, we may even do a collaboration episode. We bring on some of the previous guests for a roundtable discussion. So be sure to follow Minorities for Medical Marijuana. They are on Facebook, Instagram, and other social media pages. And the website is m4mmunited.org. Thank you to our admin support from Eric Range. And thank you to our founder, Roz McCarthy. Well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the Canamedic is signing off. I want you all to stay safe, stay happy, stay humble, and stay healthy. Mr. McLeod, I'll be seeing you soon, and thank you again. I look forward to coming up and meeting the rest of the family.
Sandy, I look forward to seeing you too, Stanley. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're very welcome.